Hello, everyone. Can you start making your way to your seat? Hello, everyone. What?
Okay, so we're buying more seats for next week. Is everyone good? Ray, do you need a seat? Should we try to pull something? All right. That might be Brian, but where's? Oh no, he's over there. Okay. Everyone comfortable? Everyone have coffee? Cool. All right. Thanks, everyone. Wow. Every week, another chair filled. This is exciting. Welcome to Center Photography at Woodstock. Do you hear that? Can you hear that now? I don't know why it's coming out of there. Um, is that weird? Can we mute that thing? Okay, thanks for coming to meet the artist. Every Thursday, we host a local or visiting artist in our space here, in our little 474 space. Tonight, we have, I'm Sarah, by the way, Sarah Danziger. I'm the education coordinator here. Tonight, we're really, really excited to have Roger Richardson and Clint Woodside from Dead Bee Club here. They just made a book together, or did a book together. I'm going to read a little bit about Roger, and then I'm going to put Roger on the mic. Roger Richardson is a photographer based in the Hudson Valley. He attended SUNY Purchase, where he earned his BFA in photography. Working in photographic documentary style, Richardson is interested in telling stories of the human condition, whether it be through emotionally charged photographs or through the images of others. His work derives from a deep desire for human connection, empathy, and compassion. By using his photography to document his experience, his hopes are to create honest and impassioned images of the world around him. Let's welcome Roger.
Uh, Thank you for coming out. Very nervous. I didn't expect so many people to show up, but yep. Um, yeah, a little. I think I'm. Yeah, this is good. Do this. Yeah, this is good. Awesome. Um, so I want to talk about my book, Let Me So Love, now available. This work I made. Well, it sort of became. I started it when I was fresh out of high school. Went to Pine Bush High School, which is in New York, about 50 minutes away. And growing up, I moved when I was 15 and up from Yonkers. And, um, coming up here from Yonkers, it was sort of a culture shock. I didn't really engage with the place too well. Um, a lot of sort of s- political and sociological differences that I haven't really, at the time growing up, hadn't really dealt with. And the when I was out of high school, I had a weird desire to sort of explore where I live. So I there was a time in particular that is really wish I had the photo of this because it's give you more context. But um, driving home one day after school, I was in a school bus and uh, the we were taking this back road, and I remember it being really windy, and I wasn't really used to these sort of rural back roads. And um, I remember stopping at where a group of kids live, stopping, and the kids piling off the bus and looking over to the woods and seeing like a couple of swastikas carved into a tree, which kind of petrified me because I haven't really, growing up, I hadn't really dealt with that level of hate, um, or that sort of symbology directly, you know. So I had a really sort of a specific way of looking at the area. Um, so uh, when I finished high school, I started at community college in Orange County Community College, and I started working on a project, um, which was sort of the early stages of Let Me So Love. Um, I wanted to start engaging with people in the city, and it kind of turned into sort of this narrative of instead of what I thought was I was going to see, which was ignorance, hate, um, prejudiceness. I didn't really see it when I was closely examining. Um, I I started to photograph people, and most importantly, I felt that was a great way of sort of understanding who these people are, and you know what is it that I don't sort of what makes me not connect with this place. But at the deeper and deeper I go, the more I get connected I become with the place. Um, so I just want to talk about the photos. So a lot of these photos were made around Middletown, New York. You guys may know it. A lot in Monticello, Liberty, and these are all people that I met on these walks around town. Um, and you know, they all allowed me to photograph them and engage with them in kind of really beautiful ways. And the more I um, sort of sequenced the images, the more they seemed like small little vignettes of life in this place. Um, I think I would like the work to sort of live like that, and small stories that hopefully people can see and maybe see some sort of respect and love in. Um, this is the cover. Um, so yeah, and a year or two ago, Clint approached me uh, to make this book, and I jumped at the chance because, you know, it felt finished, and this is a couple of years worth of work, and yeah, I hope you all like it. I'm sorry, everyone. I'm really nervous. um, all of these were shot on either my Mamiya RB, which, yeah, it was a hassle because I didn't have a tripod, so a lot of these were handheld, and I don't know if there's any students in the audience, but the the I think having that equipment kind of helped in making the work because I was able to start a discussion about like the camera, which is kind of corny to say, but people are always interested in the equipment you're holding. So use that as as a way of engaging, or a way to engage with people. Um, and yeah, and all of these photos are actually in the book. This is the PDF of the book. Um, and I kind of this is the one of the last images, and I kind of like this sequence. I resequence. There's a ton of photos in this work, in this body of images, but this one is I feel like a really good end cap, personally, going along with that theme of these small stories, these vignettes around this place in America, that there's a family that lived here and they were happy. They're no longer there, but you know they were there. But it's something kind of empowering and kind of thoughtful, and I really like it. Good way of ending it, I think. Um, yeah, and I think that's it. Yeah. Thank you.
Hey, Roger. Let's do. Does anyone have any questions for Roger?
Um,
Did you print that?
oh, so I have prints, but a lot of these, a lot of these were done on film, but I a lot of them are digital as well. So I've printed a lot of these, but yeah, yeah. Oh, there, yep, yep. I scanned them. Yep. Yeah, yeah. They yeah, yeah.
Hey, hi, Rich.
Hey.
I wanted to know if you engaged with your subjects after exposure,
Yep.
and maybe gave them prints or
Yeah.
got to know people.
Yeah, it's a really good question. I definitely did. I so I'm not really a big fan of photographing people. Uh, I want their permission and their consent. So yeah, I engage and I say, hey, I really like the way you were standing here. A little flattery, but you know, it's strange, but you know, it's a lot tougher to approach somebody to ask for their photograph, especially a stranger. And um, you know, compliment goes a long way, and um, the you know, I explained that, like, oh, I need to develop this, but I'll send you a copy. I try to send out digital images just because of it's easier to share. But I'll get an email or follow them on Instagram or something. Instagram is a really big one. And like a good example is sorry, hold on. There's a girl standing right outside her house. Oh, her. Um, oh, him too, actually. Or her too. This all work. Hold on. I like this story better. I'm sorry. Oh, her. Okay. Um, yeah. So I took this photo, and I asked her to follow me on Instagram, and once it was developed, we started. She really loved it, and we started talking about photography, and she kind of started to have an interest. And I don't know, it's just a really, it's a nice interaction that we had, just based off of this brief moment that we spent together. Um, so yeah, long story short, I do. Thanks.
I have a question.
Oh, yep.
Is this an ongoing body work? I can't remember if you mentioned.
No, I think I'm done. Yeah. I think I think the way that I was feeling at the time when making this, I don't think I'm feeling the same way about the world. Um, I um, yeah, yeah, I think this is done. Yeah.
First, these are all really, really beautiful,
Thank
and
you.
especially with the photo that you ended on, it really created a narrative for me. And so, I guess one of the questions that I have, when you meet these subjects, you started with a compliment and like maybe an idea of a story that was already there, but through your process of engaging with all of these people or getting to know them after, did you get to learn about some of their stories, or did you leave with a different version of what you might have started with?
Yeah, totally.
And great job.
Yeah, thank you. um, yeah, I think a lot of the times the story for me happens um, afterwards. Um, I think the engagement kind of shapes it as well. A lot of the times it could just be a gesture or somebody's eyes that I'll like lock eyes with them, and I'm just like, you're the one. I'm going to photograph you, you know. And I don't the story I think comes in the sequencing and maybe the interaction. I think so. I don't think I can divorce those thoughts. You know. Not all of all- my interactions with people are positive. A lot of them are pretty rough. Not all the time, but uh, that all of that sort of shapes the image. I think for me, personally. Yeah, yeah. Oh well, I not in like a well, yeah. So I I think the well, what do you mean? Like the oh yeah yeah oh okay yeah um well I wouldn't take the photo if yeah so I respectful in that way like I'm not a you don't owe me anything as a person in my photos so I asked them and the compliment was like half joke I usually like I'll say like hey the the way you were leaning up against the car I really like that or I'll just talk to them like are you interested in posing for this but yeah if the interaction goes south I kind of just abandon because yeah, mostly two. Like 9 times out of 10, it's two photos. Um, uh, uh, the That first photo is always like the let's have fun, If you want to smile, let's smile, like smile, But I then I think the photo starts shaping itself after the first photo, and I can like kind of piece it together after that, or like change something, or I think there's also a confidence. Maybe there's a confidence boost in people as well. Um, they're like, "Oh, you're taking more." Like maybe that's a good thing. I don't know, but like I don't know. But yeah, all of these are. I wouldn't say all of them, but I try to do. I stay pretty rigid with this kind of stuff, like two, and then I'm done. Um,
So you only make 2 images?
of the person, yeah,
Oh wow.
yeah, yeah. Always at 6 p.m. and I would try to shoot 2 rolls a week. So unfortunately, I'm not as active as I used to be when making this. This was pre-COVID, and so I was walking around a lot, um, and I had less responsibilities, so I was able to um, just leave work and walk, and that's what I did. And uh, 2 rolls a week was my I learned that in school. Yeah, 2 rolls a week, and a lot of the times you don't get good stuff, but you gotta keep working that muscle, you know, because it'll come sooner or later. Um, oh, and for the digital, I some images were digital, but it was only because I couldn't afford film, so um, I would borrow a camera um, or however I would get a digital camera, and I would take photos. But for the most part, they're all film. Always, always, yeah. That's why you always got to carry a camera with you. Like most of the times, it was when I didn't have a camera on me. So that's another part of my I guess the ritual is always having a camera on me and try to shoot 2 rolls a week. Doesn't always happen, but try.
Like a natural people person, or was it like a challenge for you to go out and meet people, meet strangers, and have this pretty intimate engagement with photography?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm pretty shy. But I like talking to people, so I never really had a that big of an issue with it. Um, it was my biggest hurdle, I would say, in all of it is developing. I'm not the best at like I'll mess up like rolls, like just not rolling them properly on the reels. The interacting with people, like it's no issue. I don't know. I think I the it kind of came naturally to me, which I when I started to do it, and I think looking at a body of work that really inspired me for "Let Me So Love" is Mark Steinmetz's trilogy, the South. Yeah, like that. Those 3 books are my Bible in school. I can't tell you how much I checked it out, and maybe that gave me some confidence because I don't know, but I'd never really struggled with it, thankfully. Sometimes, sometimes I did like just eyeballed it. Um, thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, don't particularly like the actually when I was shooting digital, I noticed I would shoot a bit more, especially with still lives, and I think it had to do with the aspect ratio of digital. I like the constraint of the 6:7. It's really like it just makes sense to me, and the digital is you have more space on this in the sensor, so there's just I was always including like too much space on top for portraits or too much space on the sides for something. Oh, sorry. Too much spaces on the side for some things, and yeah, it would so yeah, so a lot of that I kind of have to like adjust, but it's not too bad. I think it was I came to the title kind of late. I so it's from the prayer of Saint Francis, "Let me so love," um, uh, sort of like responses to um, certain, at least how I see the prayers, how to sort of respond to any sort of adversity with love or understanding, empathy. So that kind of like it all like made sense to me at a moment. Um, and I got the prayer from the back of a prayer card that I had because I grew up Roman Catholic, so we would have these like prayer to whoever sitting around the house, rosary beads. So that's where the title came from. Yeah.
When can you hear me?
Yeah.
When you started working on the book and sort of working through the narrative that you wanted, did you feel like the need to go backfill anything, or were you tempted to,
No.
you had a lot of photographs?
Yeah, I have way too many. I yeah, way too many. But yeah, yeah, way too many. Um, yeah, I guess it just makes sense in the editing process. Once everything is scanned, and I would make small 4x6 prints from Walgreens, and I do this for everything. I have some in my car right now, and make sequences of the work. So this Let Me So Love. There's about like probably 20 iterations of it, but there's some photos that are in it, some that aren't. It just depends on maybe how what I'm feeling at the time. And I would say that the work in earnest probably like the when I was like I know what I'm doing started in 2016. So the the there wasn't a ton at the time, but like I kind of solidified it pretty easily once. And so that being said, so there's a lot of photos, but I like to also share the photos with friends and see what they think. Like what order do you see the photos? Yeah, I'm pretty loose with this kind of stuff. Yeah, no problem.
I have one more question about your relationship with your publisher, Clint, because we have him in the house. How flexible was Clint with your sort of initial edit, and how like was it a back and forth? Was it Roger rules or was it Clint rules? How did that relationship work?
I think it was pretty chill. Like it was, yeah, it was.
You can let it all hang.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that kind of ties in with this with the last question. Like I'm pretty I was pretty flexible in how the work would be perceived and how it's at the time Clint didn't see all the work, so seeing him create a sequence and I was like, yeah, this is good. That was kind of I was yeah.
Well, when I first came to you, I came to
Yeah.
you about this. When I came to you about this, you were like, I have it as a idea of multiple zines, and they were like volumes.
Yeah.
And like that was really enticing to me. But then I was like, well, let me just do this thing and I sent it to you, and you were kind of like, "Oh wait, yeah, okay."
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
That's
That's
kind of
right.
how.
that's another thing. This book was also um I try to make books and I can't make books. I've been to Staples many times trying to. I still can't get like the all the photo space in the right way. Some of them are still can't get that. So I think initially I wanted this to be like Steinmetz, like freaking like a big body of work, but I think I'm done. I think I'm good. I think the way that the book is, I'm very happy with it, and I think it you kind of get the point. I think 3 may have been a little bit too much, but I think it's pretty succinct. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Roger. I'm on my tippy toes. Can you even see me? Let's jump into Clint. Wow, I really am. Let's jump into Clint. Uh, I'll bring it down. Do you mind if I read a little, like your little bio, real quick? Okay. Careful. Yeah, maybe. We're really lucky to have Deadbeat Club here as well. There's a whole table of really fantastic books over here. Clint Woodside is a Los Angeles-based artist, curator, and independent publisher from Buffalo, New York. That's why we let him in. Widely exhibited, he has shown work in several major cities: New York City, London, Tokyo, Sweden, Shanghai, Seoul, and Melbourne, among others. In 2011, Woodside founded Deadbeat Club to produce limited edition publications with a diverse roster of photographers, including Ed and Dina Templeton, Cheryl Dunn, Tim Carpenter. I saw you somewhere here. Yeah, yeah. And most recently, Todd Hito, Roger Richardson, Ian Bates, and Vanessa Winship. Today, Deadbeat Club remains an independent publisher of high-end photography books. We're really excited to welcome Clint here today. And this will be followed by a Q&A with our very own Adam Ryan. So,
Yes.
oh right.
How do I do this?
Yeah, let me.
This isn't my thing.
Yeah,
I can fake it. Hi, I'm Roger Richardson.
Yeah, good point.
Real quick, while we're setting this up, I think like what is kind of mind-boggling about what I learned from Roger's talk is we've been kind of marketing Roger's book as him trying to amplify the love that he has for this town that he lives in, and it wound up being more that it was Roger falling in love with the town that he's in by making that work, and I think that's a pretty beautiful thing. So I was really excited about that. I'm glad. Yeah, well, I'm here for you. I'm just channeling Roger. All right, so hi, everybody. I'm Clint. I run a small publishing company called Deadbeat Club. We started out by making zines and just kind of working with the people we know and love. We're going to kind of go through, I'm going to try to go through this part quick because I think what's going to be more interesting is more of like, I'm more of a casual conversation kind of guy, and Adam and I are going to have a little fireside chat that you guys are very welcome to be part of. So real quick, Deadbeat Club. I'm a photographer as well. I'm from Buffalo. It's kind of a steel town. It's like a larger version of where we are right now, which is something that I feel very comfortable in, which is lovely. Everywhere I've been heavily entrenched in the punk and DIY scene. And so everything I've kind of done has just been kind of like, you want to do this thing, you just need to fucking do it. So we did it. That's kind of how I learned to do stuff. It really has a large tie to a house right here, which is actually in Washington, D.C. This is called Discord House, and this is this is where Ian MacKaye and Jeff Nelson lived for a very long time and put out tons of records in the 80s and 90s and still today, documenting what was happening in the music scene in Washington, D.C. This is their basement, and this is the office that they basically worked out of. It's a mess. It's just kind of very a living, breathing space. The idea was these are the people I know, and I'm going to put out the records of the people I know. I used to run a record label that was very small, run out of Buffalo, and then also out of Philly because I lived there for a little while. Same kind of idea. What I'm doing now is really just making records for my friends. It's just that the records are made out of paper. To emphasize that, this is a show in Buffalo where I know just about every single person in this photo. I don't have a mouse. So anyway, you're talking about strolling around. Here we go. Uh-oh. Well, now we're fucked. Anyway, that's Garrett. He's singing. He's in this band, Texas is the Reason. That's me over there with the glasses. And then right next to it, who looks like me again, is Frank. That's Amy Sonny in front of us. That's Dave Spataro taking photos. Like, this is my crew back in the day. And so that's kind of what I want to push, is what all of this is about, my crew. And we have a shared, just like a shared love, you know? So it's just me growing my web wider and wider and wider. This is also a similar situation. I moved to Philadelphia. I lived in New York for a long time and just kind of, I lived in New York for a long time and worked as a graphic designer for a bunch of agencies and some places that are of note, and doesn't matter. I kind of lost my mind when I lived there and had a big burnout, and I moved to Philadelphia and worked at a record store for 4 years while I was trying to put my life back together. And I joined up with this ragtag crew of nerds called Space 1026, which is a collective that the only ethos is that we all share cheap rent in Philadelphia. Every year we take a group photo, and so this was first day of school was the theme of this year's photo. So that's why I look like a child with shoes on my feet, on my knees, and yeah. What? Oh, come on. That's my wife, everybody. So while I was there, a big part of what we had there was like silkscreen facilities and photocopiers, and just, you know, it was very much about mass production of art object, and I learned tons there. So this is the first zine I made for myself, which was all photos of right before I left Philadelphia. I made a zine for all my friends, and it's called I'm With You in Rockaway, because we would go surf in Rockaway Beach. It's a reference to I'm With You in Rockland, which is in Howell, but it's silkscreen, it's spray paint, it's photocopy, it's laser print, it's all the mess. And so here's where Deadbeat Club comes in. So I had this zine, and a lot of people were like kind of stoked on it, but they didn't know how to get their hands on it. So I got a Big Cartel website and just named it Deadbeat Club on a whim. And it was just like, yeah, I'm going to sell zines. I'm going to sell whatever kind of stuff I happen to be making at the time. And it became a center spot for just my output. And then sometimes every once in a while, a friend would make something. And I'd be like, oh, I'll throw it on my site if you want me to move it for you. Fast forward a couple years, I moved to Los Angeles. And really what happens is my friend Ed, some people know him, this guy Ed Templeton, who's a really great photographer, a really great skateboarder, a really good friend. He shattered his leg, and it's pretty much his retirement. He was a professional skateboarder, skater of the year, amazing human. He was skateboarding and shattered his leg, and for 6 months he had to sit on his couch because he had so many pins in his leg that if he moved, like, his leg would just feel like it was about to explode. And I was like, dude, you're going to go crazy sitting on your couch this whole time. Let's just make up a project. And so he gave me a stack of photos of women putting makeup on, because he shoots in series. He's a big series guy. Mohawks, HB Pure series, umbrellas, tons of stuff. He sent me a stack of these photos, and then I was like, well, I can make a zine. And then on the other side, I was just traveling all over. So I made Northeast, Southwest. And basically, it's you do this, and it's Ed's zine, and then you flip it over this way, and then it's my zine. And that was the first time I made a zine for somebody else, and something magical happened where we just sold these like very quickly. Ed is noted, and people know who Ed is, and they got stoked. And I was like, oh wait, that was fun. I should do more zines for other people. And that was found on Deadbeat Club's website, the same big cartel. Then right after that, my friend Devin made this zine called Cowabunga, and I was like, oh, you should give me some of those zines. He's like, oh, send me the Deadbeat Club logo. I'll put it on the zine. And that was the first time we ever had a logo on a zine. And I was like, I guess this is a thing, and we're just going to keep doing this? So that was like the fifth or sixth zine that we did under Deadbeat Club's name, and Devin just gave me a stack and he was like, here, sell these. So like it wasn't any kind of like, no one was tied to each other. It just happened to be a way of working. There was a big riot probably like a year later at the Huntington US Open of surfing, and a bunch of friends happened to be at the riot and they shot a ton of it. So we made this zine called Surf Disturbance, which is a little bit of a joke about a Nick Waplington book about a riot in the same space after the same event, probably about 10 years prior, maybe 20 years prior. I think that was 86. Anyway, that was called Surf Riot, and this was more of a disturbance. It wasn't that hectic. So we made a collaborative zine, and it was, again, working with a bunch of people, and I curated this thing, and I was like, oh, this is kind of fun. I'm kind of new to LA at this point, and I just am much like Roger in a way. I'm like trying to find my way. How do I live here? What's interesting? Like where, this is my town. So I made this zine where it was just a ton of photos of cars covered in tarps. Now, coming from the East Coast like this, tarps are on your car because you don't want it to get fucked up with snow or elements or whatever. But over there, it's just to protect your fancy car, and it's also to make your, like, to prevent sun damage. So it's like a strange anomaly that I was trying to get my head around. But I just started walking around Southern California, just finding these cars that kind of just seem like these forgotten relics. And I just started thinking about just the idea of, what did this guy who owns this car have for breakfast? Like, what is the life of this guy? And it turned into this body of work that's less about the cars, but the lives of the people who own these cars and the surrounding area. Trying to find my cross section of this. And when that happened, I showed my friend the zine, who also has a publishing company called Kill Your Idols. That's just a little eye candy. I was working on an installation at the MoCA for a friend who is a very well-known artist, and he had a show there, and it was about street art. And one day I walked in while I already knew I was shooting this, and this Keith Haring car was just, I turned around and there it was. I was like, oh shit. Of course I need to shoot this. So I was shooting all this, and I showed it to a friend. I showed my friend the zine, which when I made the zine, it was done. And he was like, no, we're going to make a book. I'm like, no, the book is this zine. Here, I'm done. He's like, no, we're going to do this. And I'm not going to say no to somebody who wants to make a book for me. And I took it and I went on for another 2 or 3 years and kept shooting more and more to make a much better version of the zine. The funny thing is, nobody knows, that guy who made the book has no idea how to sell books. So basically, this is how I learned how to make a book. I'm the one who did all the scans. I'm the one who made all the images correct. And I had to like work with the printer to be like, here, let's do it. And the funniest part is when we made the books, no one bought any from him, but everybody started buying them because I put them on Deadbeat Club's website. So it just, because everybody knew it was me, and, you know, it's kind of like people who support each other, community kind of vibe. So that was the first book I did, and I learned a lot there. In the meantime, Deadbeat Club is also this other entity at this point where we're doing shows in all these galleries, and it's about this crew where... Oh, there's another. Oh, that's beautiful. I'll walk it around. That's me, obviously, but that's Deanna Templeton, Grant Hatfield, Devin Briggs, that's the Cowabunga guy, Andrea Sonnenberg, Nolan Hall, Tobin Yelland. Ed is being blocked by Tobin's arm, and that's Cheryl Dunn. And we did tons of shows in various places, and Deadbeat Club was both a publishing company, but also like this collective. But we weren't really a collective because I was the guy who was really making all the shots, calling all the shots and stuff. But everybody kind of trusted me anyways, which I'm very lucky in that way. So we just did all these things, but this is one of the shows that we did. And at the same time of this, I met this guy, Fred, who runs the gallery that we did the show in. And Fred and I did another project that we did that was both super exciting, but also it aged me probably 10 years. We did this thing called the Photomat. And I don't know if you guys know what a Photomat is, but when you drove around in the 80s and you wanted to have like one, this is like the beginning of 1 hour photo where you would drive up and your mom would hand this dude in the car, in this booth, your roll of film, go to the CVS and go get your whatever you need, come back out and pick up your processed film. And this is how it used to be. So this has always been in the back of my head. And I'm like, oh, I'd be sick if I bought one of these and just like served coffee and started doing all this stuff out of it. Because all of these in LA, they still show up every once in a while, but they're locksmiths or they're flower shops or smoke shops or something like that. So what we did is we made, this was at the LA Art Book Fair, we made a pop-up where we would sell zines out of it and we would sell film, but we also processed film because we partnered with a local lab. And then we also had shirts and stuff, and like instead of 1 hour, it would be 24 hours. So you would get all the film dropped off, and then overnight they would process all the film that would come in. And everything was $5. That was the thing. It's just like, fuck it, punk rock prices. Let's keep it super accessible. And so also everyone would have a 1 hour shift that I worked with. So Deanna Templeton would come in and work at the booth for an hour, and she had a limited photo that was only available for the hour, and she would sign, and that's Craig Stesick that's looking at us like a crazy person, because he's a crazy person. That's Ed, that's Daniel Arnold, and Jake. Oh my God, sorry. Yeah, so that, you know, Jake Michaels, sorry. So we would just do all these things, and like it was more about just being engaged and being part of the people, part of the community that we were around. And we just kept making stuff. Right about now is when my wife probably came into the picture, and she kind of inherited this. So just a heads up, she is just as guilty as I am about this from here on out, from this part on out. But yeah. And then this is the next body of work that I kind of worked on. So me and my friend Dan Monick were asked by a Japanese gallery to do a show together. And we didn't have anything. So we're just friends. And they were like, you guys should do a show together. And so Dan, who has been shooting in the Valley of Los Angeles for 20 years, is like, let's do a thing on the Valley. And I never went there. So I was like, well, I guess I'm going to start making work about the Valley. And it was really interesting with Dan being there and shooting forever and me being kind of a tourist and making this body of work about just strange Valley vibes. So this is like half Deadbeat Club, half me, but I'm just, yeah. And it was just me kind of wandering about, again, kind of trying to find my space in this place. That's a bong. I sat there and watched these dudes smoke weed out of this part. I mean, that's where you put the weed in, and we hung out in this parking lot. It's actually, did I ever go by it? Sorry, hang on. Yeah, we'll get into that. Oh my God, it's this parking lot. But you know, I sat there and watched them smoke it, and they dropped it and did their donuts and got out of there, and I just walked up and took a photo of that apple because I was like, that's hilarious. But just like such a weird vibe. So the Valley is kind of like where people go once they give up on their acting careers, you know? They're like, I don't know what to do, and it's just like kind of the land of the lost. It's just a strange spot. Smoke shops and diners and donut shops. And yeah, and like that was how we did Vineland, and then we just started making more and more and more. I made a book with Ed that was all just mohawks because he's a very typological dude. I made a book with Ed Pinar, who did a book about Northern California and where all the weed is grown, but without showing where any of the weed is grown, because it's such a weird, eerie space, and it's just strange. And in the back has a little secret zine that is photos of every marijuana. He went up to this place and trimmed weed for 10 years, and he made hero shots of all the buds that he was. So there's this little secret zine and a secret stash. It's over there if you want to take a look. A lot of this is over here. This is with Tim and Nathan. Tim Carpenter, Nathan Pierce. They had this idea. They wanted to make a zine where they're like, oh, it's trains, and we're like, one is pictures of the train tracks, the other one is photos outside of a train window going across country. I'm like, well, that's cool. We can make a zine, but like, why don't we make this zigzag book? So it's a book that has one board in the middle, and over here is a spine, and over here is a spine. So that way, when you flip it over one way or the other, you get one person's book, and then when you flip it over, it's the other person's book. And it's just, I want to find interesting ways to communicate ideas that we're going for. Cole's book is about the birth of their first child, but during the birth of his child, a gnarly storm came in. His wife was in labor for 4 days, which already is a scene. But while she's in labor, this really gnarly storm, they live in Cape Cod, came in and crushed the town that they live in. And he went out and photographed both of these occurrences, I guess is the way to put it, and made this really beautiful abstract book. And we just made it fucking weird. And it's just really a beautiful, beautiful object. It's over there. You should look. Maud Arsenal, who is this French Canadian lady who is like coming to an age where she's like in her late 40s, and she's starting to feel like she's disappearing and is more a mother than a woman of beauty. And she was in fashion photography forever, and she thought about how her fashion photography affected her daughter, and like there's this really deeply entwined conceptual thing that she's going through, and I just really tried to help her get through it and understand what it is. I don't have photos of the inside because I wanted to keep this succinct. Rabbit Hair is two dudes who grew up in the same town and later found out that their family is actually from another town in Texas, and so they drove to Texas and smashed all the pretenses of what it is to be a man in Texas with cowboy hats and all that shit. They like threw that to the side and tried to find a more softer idea of it. Tim wrote an essay in the back of it that's beautiful and more articulate than I can say. Ward was the first man who lived in this communal house where it was all women, and he was the first man to move into it. And it's this really beautiful book about him kind of being an outsider, but then brought into this sisterhood that it's just really touching, and it's beautiful color work. It's sold out. I don't have a copy of it, I'm sorry. But what I want to accentuate with this is this pushes the idea of this community vibe where Ward wanted to do a show, but it was in the middle of COVID, so he built a house in his backyard, which is actually the house that the work is made in, and had people come out and hang out in the backyard, and he just hung the work out, and you can walk around in his backyard and see a show for a weekend. It was beautiful. Like, and people from the photos came who have lived, like, this work is probably like 5 years old. All of them have new lives. There's babies involved now. It's just crazy. But it was like this point, which happens a lot. It's kind of like when we go to these book fairs, it's like this moment where everybody comes back together and is like, so what have you been up to? Like, tell me more. And it's really, that's what we're trying to do. Virginia made a beautiful body of work about a park really close to us in Echo Park. Covey. You know, we've just done Jake Reinhardt, who is from Pittsburgh, all about the Youghiogheny River and life along the Youghiogheny River. and what industrialization has done to that area. Vanessa Winship, who was brought in to do an assignment of taking pictures of Amish people and then fell in love with this area, well, got freaked out by this area and decided she needed to learn more about it and kept coming back to make this beautiful body of work called Snow. Ian Bates, who so the meadowlark is a bird. It's the state bird of like seven states. I can't remember how many, all in the same area. Like all the Dakotas and Montana, it's the state bird for all of these states in this little group. So use that as a touchstone to like start exploring and understand what these places are and what the idea of the American West is. It's very different than what most people think. Dave Pildes is an 83-year-old photographer who has beautiful work of all of these over here. Beautiful photos of Hollywood Boulevard from the 70s before it became this commercialized crazy town where like now you go there and there's dudes in superhero costumes begging, like bugging you for $20 to take their photo. We got Roger. Maybe you've heard of it. I don't know. And then, so now this is very quickly, this is where I'm at right now with what I'm working on. So this is about my family. My family's from up north from here, straight due north, almost Montreal, but like Ogdensburg area, if people know that zone. Gouverneur, I guess, is also another bigger town up there. So that's my dad. It's not me. This guy, and this guy all died in the span of 8 months, all in separate drunk driving accidents when my dad was 19. They go hard in the North Country. So that is kind of a gnarly fact. And I would go up here. My grandmother, God bless her, God rest her soul, she stayed in, the town is called Hubleton, which is, you blink and you'll miss it. She stayed there, and so growing up, I would go up there all the time. That's Hubleton. And then all of this is like Amish country, you know. I would go up there and for Christmas and holidays and things. And I just started like recently, probably like I guess almost 5 years, 6 years ago now. I started going up there and just kind of working off of these phantom memories of various things being around this town. And it's still very deeply long. It's got many miles to go before it's ready for prime time. But this is actually a sidewalk that would be between my grandmother's house, who you saw, and then next door, because that's how these towns work, was my cousin. And we would go between those two houses whenever we came to visit, because I would hang out with my cousin, who was much closer to my age, and we would stay at my grandmother's house. But this crabapple tree was there when I was like 6, and I remember walking on these crab apples and getting them on my feet. Like, it's these kinds of things that I'm just kind of trying to work off of. I just kind of feel like the North Country is just this area that hasn't really been examined that much. I'm working over here. Real quick though, like to push the idea. This is the trophy case that is in my dad's high school. I went in there and I was like, I'm in a high school. I should watch what I'm doing. I'm not going to take any photos. But the person who's running the high school, like the administration, whatever you want to call them, is sitting there. And I'm like, hey, my dad went to high school here. Is it okay if I take a couple photos? And like, who's your dad? And I'm like, Tom Woodside. Tommy? Hey, Gene, this is Tommy Woodside's kid. Both the principal, the lady working the counter, all went to high school with my dad. Like, they all know each other. And it's like, my dad is known up there still. And he hasn't lived there for 40 years, 50 years. This is a piece of my grandmother's house. She's not there anymore, obviously, and she hasn't owned it for a very long time, but the owner was nice enough to not come out with a shotgun. I didn't realize until I made a bigger print of this. This is like this amazing Harley Davidson shirt. I can't wait until I make a decent print of that to show you. Like, it's crazy. This is just a tree that was on the side of the road. That's Debbie Club. You know, we just got more to do. I don't know. We're just making books. We got more to do. We roast coffee now too. Anyway.
Quick break to stretch our legs, get some coffee, and then we'll come back and any questions that you have, you can ask during the Q&A, during the fireside chat. Thanks, everyone.
Come again, please. Ooh, such a lovely cat.
All right. Testing. Is this mic on? Great. And we're going to use our quiet, silent voices. So we're really excited. We're going to wrap today up with a quote-unquote fireside chat with Adam Ryan, our curatorial assistant here at CBW, and Clint Woodside. I just have a couple announcements. I'll just make them now, and then we can let them fade out and just walk out basically. I want to mention that next week we have Tim Carpenter and Jenya Friedland in conversation, so that's going to be really fun. We're very excited to have them here. And then, is there a link here? Okay. At Bard on February 16th, Baldwin Lee is going to be doing a talk. So, yeah. So we will not be doing one on the 16th. I'm just giving you the inside scoop because I hear there's only 80 seats. Get there early. I also wanted to mention that we have a show over at the old IBM building, Parallel Lives. That's from up through February 14th, February 5th. What are we talking about? 5th or 14th? All right, 14th. Soft closing, and then I'll say the 14th. And that is That's a group of 13 photographers from all over the world, totaling about 150 works that span a lot of different very interesting mediums and topics, themes. Also, we have a membership. If you would like to become a member of CBW, talk to me. We have a digital lab, and we have a very exciting new building on the horizon. So we'll just see. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Adam and.
Can I say something really quick? Take it away. We know you can hear us, but this is a lot of conversations in the world on the internet, so we have to talk into these. I think it's weird, but let's just be fast. All right. Well, thank you for coming. I'm here for you. Listen. Well, I guess I'll start off by saying that it was you that reached out to me that suggested that maybe the launch project book and stuff in general, and so let's go for it. So I just kind of feel, you guys have a thing that's kind of like our thing, where this is a good thing in my head, where this is kind of a small community, and a lot of people know each other here, and Roger's book is a lot about getting to know the community. It's not far from literally this block where he made the book. And it just felt like we always like to do this we had a small show in LA, but I also want to do that. I don't know what it's going to it just felt like this is yeah, I was trying to recall, and I think it just must have been at April. No, I think it was. Oh, was it? Was it at the very first one? Yeah, sure. Yeah. Well, I'm so pleased that you did it. It's great to be here. I have to say, thank you. It's an ironic title because you are the opposite. You hustle harder than perhaps anyone I know. Yeah. So, I jotted down notes earlier. I guess I'll tell you what I like about you. Let's do this. Yeah. So, I like that you're a maker. You don't waste a lot of time talking about how you make it about making. You just do it. And I feel like that's what it looks like on the outside. Well, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like it has a lot to do with your the way you sort of feel about it. And it's just there's a strain of thinking where you don't just create a mission to just go ahead and do it. I think in reality, I think but yeah, I think not just getting it work there are experiences in that first year that we felt popular but not like crazy. And there were a few of us that breaking San Francisco. But yeah, I spent around. It may not have happened, so I was just like, "Fuck it, let's do this." And then eventually, I was like, "Oh, that person's got great shit. Fuck it, let's do that too." Yeah.
It seems like you want to be the guy who says yes.
I really do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't want to be the guy that
I
turns.
hate
people
it
down.
when I have to be that guy.
Yeah, yeah, and especially now with where the photo book world is today compared to where it was when you started doing this.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a different,
Very
beast
different
entirely.
landscape. Yeah.
So yeah, it's just it's everywhere. But you know, while we were having this break just now, Ray and I were talking, and we were thinking about how the zine has also changed a lot,
Yeah.
especially going way back to when you first started making them.
Yeah.
And that evolution, I was reading another interview that you had done, maybe, I don't know, 8 years ago or something. I found it online, and you made this point about the zine being an excuse to slow down.
Well, yeah. I think that also carries over to books, because the thing, when I think I know what you're talking about, because I've said that too many times now. It's kind of when I probably said that, Tumblr was more of a thing and not Instagram yet, which is crazy because Instagram's gotten so much more intense than Tumblr ever was. But, you know, it's the mass consumption of images. All it is this scrolling. And I like that drove me nuts. And I'm not saying like I'm totally against that kind of stuff. There is a place for Instagram or Tumblr, or which I guess Tumblr maybe not anymore. Sorry. But there's a place for these kinds of things for sure. But it's really, really nice to have a moment and sit and digest. And you can't do that as well. You can't tell as good of a story as you would like to in something where you have to sit and interact with, where you turn a page or God, like just feel material, smell the ink. Like these are all things that are like a digital screen can't do. I'm not against the digital screen, but I also feel like all of these mediums are mediums that could be explored. And I'm kind of more interested in like the tangible mediums, I guess.
Right. And as one of your slogans, there's no money in books.
And we're falling apart every day.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, I mean, you're making more books than you ever have.
Yeah. I think that's very true.
There's no shortage of good work or
Yeah.
good projects.
No, for sure. There's no shortage of great work. A large part of what we do is we like need to feel that family relationship to the people that we work with, and that takes time, and you have to learn to trust people, and that's largely what this is just like a giant trust experiment, I guess. And that might be the thing that slows us down most.
Yeah.
I just did our next release is a book for Toshio Shibata, who is a really great, really well known in certain circles, large format photographer. It's all this work from the 80s, and like he just gave me the photos, and I did my edit, and I was just freaked out because I'm gonna give this 73-year-old master my edit, and I was just nervous as fuck. And he was like in love with it. And like, it's because I have spent good time with him. I know him. Like, I know how to bring that, what he wants. I feel like I'm a decent editor, but I'm also good at reading people and trying to give them what they want, which is maybe a problem. But yeah, you know, so like, that's the thing that takes time.
Sure. And yeah, I was wondering, because I know you've called yourself an indie book publisher. You know, when does indie no longer indie?
It's funny you
If you're
brought that
doing
up. I was
books with
thinking about
Toshio
that
Shibata.
today, because actually another friend of mine who's also, this is not in any fault of him using the term, Paul from TBW.
Yeah, sure.
He sent out an
Paul
email
Shea.
about the new book that he's doing right now. This Peggy Newland, I think her name is.
Uh-huh.
The book looks sick. But at the bottom of it, it says independent photo publisher. And I was like, yeah, for sure. But when are you not?
Mhm.
Like, even Mac, who's like maybe the biggest dog in town, they're still independent, right? They're not owned by Exxon or anything like that. So it's like, where is that line? I don't know. It's not something I don't know if I like use that term too much, but I also, what does that mean? It's kind of weird.
Yeah. I think this would be a good time to sort of open this up more.
Sure.
To take some more questions from folks. I'm happy to pass the mic to anyone who's got questions or comments. Yeah, please.
I have a question. I feel like you about microphones and Zoom meetings and all that other stuff because I grew up with it. But my question for you, and if you don't have to answer it, because I don't really deal with my question to your economics. The fact that you are enabled to, and I admire that, the fact that you are capable of launching projects which most people would say, I don't see the fuck in. Which fascinates me that you're able to do it and how you're able.
I'm a little confused at what the question of that is, though.
What are the economics? I mean, generally, you would have to sell X amount of books to cover your cost of editing and posting and publicity and all that other stuff. So how are you able to do that, considering what the economics are?
Yeah, it's not easy. It's very razor thin when it comes to returns. I mean, honestly, you know what we did is for years we made those zines, and I still want to make more of those zines, by the way. It's like a huge part of where I come from, and I want to try to make more, but everybody wants a book now that I make a book. But yeah, so like we made those zines forever, and I would just save as much money as I can. Those are $10. They cost like $4 to make. I would just save and save and save. And then finally I had enough money to make a book, and that was Ed's book. And that I knew would kind of do decently. So I was able to have enough money to make money back on that. And every book that we sell, the money for that book is what's paying for the next book. It's not like we're retiring in the Palisades, you know, but it's a good, there's no money in books is the joke. And we're called Deadbeat Club because that's a joke, because this is the hardest job I've ever had, but it's also like the best feeling. It's the best feeling job I've had also. So,
and you spent many years in the field of graphic design.
Yeah, I did graphic design forever. I kind of know how to make these books because I have a good handle on typography and like how to make the files the way people need the files, I guess. There's the technical term, there's the technical work and the artful work of design, and I have a little bit of both in my back pocket, so it makes it a little easier for me to be able to get that stuff done.
Hey, could you talk a little bit more of that? Because I think that most of us as publishers think about the cost as being the CPU of what we pay to have it produced, whereas all of the expertise that you
distribution,
design, and marketing, that kind of amorphously gets not credited.
Yeah.
So much, you know, like we do all this work. It's
well,
not free, but like, you know, like we got to pay the publisher, we got to pay the printer, we got to pay the guy who binds it.
Yeah. So like
money out the door, but then the other money is our time and effort.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, the way we do stuff often is, let's say Tim comes to me with a project and he's like, I want Ruth to design it. I'm like, that's cool. You can do that. Congratulations, Ruth. Yeah. All right. And so like, that's cool, but that's on you to pay Ruth. That's kind of how we do it, because I can do that. If you don't like it, I will continue to make things until you like it. But if you want to work with somebody, I'm into it, but that comes out of your pocket, because that's just, I can only do, I'm not making a ton of money, you know, and we make it clear. We also pay our photographers most publishers don't pay their photographers. We pay them a percentage of the profits that we make. We also give them a good stack of books, much more than most publishers do, because I feel like if I'm making a huge profit, if I'm making a profit off of somebody else's work, I feel like they also need to make money off of their work.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
It's kind of weird to me that people pay for it sometimes.
There are some.
It's a
some
huge.
predatory practices out there.
I don't want to say it's
publishing.
predatory, but that is.
I'll say that.
Yeah, I mean, there are ones that are fucking gnarly about it.
Yeah, sure.
There's ones that take some money and like do it, and I think if people, that's one way of working. We do it a different way. I'm not saying I wouldn't take money from an institution or something if they were going to be down to pay for it, but we try not to play that game as much as we can. So,
Yeah, it is a business at the end of the day.
yeah.
And
for
you
sure.
and I were talking about this sort of subscription idea that you had,
Yeah.
where institutions can sort of they have the opportunity to go deep
Yeah.
in your publishing, and to sort of count on having everything that you put out comes to that institution.
Yeah. And there's like, that's,
I think there's a future there.
yeah, I think so too. And I think, that's the other thing is like special editions. And there's like little things in these books that are just a little more of a bump of money to make you get through the day. Like making a special edition, that's a good chunk of loot. And if I can sell 5 of them, that means that the special editions are at least paid for. So everything after that is like a little bit more money for, and I share the profits of the special editions 50-50 with all the artists. So it's not like, again, I'm not like running into the bank with that stuff, but it's good to,
And it goes into the next project.
yeah.
I have 2 questions, and maybe you mentioned this before, but when you have like an artist that comes to you and it's like, I want to do this book, and you're like, it's not really what I want to do. If someone were like, do you ever get approached where someone's like, I've got someone to pay for this all. I just want you to publish it under your name. Do you do that, or do you only publish things that you are kind of 100% behind?
I would only do it if it felt like I would want to do it anyways. Yeah, there's no way I would just be like, yeah, no way. Yeah. Was there a second question?
There was a second question. Your books are gorgeous.
They're okay.
Leafing through them. Do you always use the same printer?
No, I have we have like 3 or 4 ones that we use mostly. I've been using one a lot that I really, really love, and I love what comes out of it. But I'm doing a book with this woman, Anne Rierick, who is from Gloucester, Massachusetts. That's going to be done in Turkey, which is different than the one that we usually go to, and it's a different Turkey. It's where we printed Vanessa's book. We go all over. There's a spot in the Midwest that we print at. We do all of our zines at a spot in the Midwest. Yeah, it's like, no, it's way too expensive.
And what makes you decide one printer over? I was listening to the interview with, I don't remember her name, but she's the designer for Mac, and she's like, well, sometimes
Morgan's a friend.
Italy, because they let me just sit there and make lots of decisions. Some people are like this or this. Go, you gotta go to press.
Well,
is it the same?
That is not 100% true, but like there's a lot of different reasons. Like what paper is available in one spot is not available at another. What one spot's really good at, like say they're really good at duotone or tritone printing, another spot's going to be great at CMYK printing. And like, you just have to know, you have to look at what you're making. Like if I went to my one spot that I go to in China and wanted to make something kind of like Jenya's book, they'd be so confused. They'd be like, they wouldn't understand the way like the engineering works. They're really good at like, this is a book, hardcover, go straight forward, done. You got to go to places that are good at what they do and are affordable too. It's not always that way, The place that Morgan goes to is amazing. Like they do beautiful work. It's actually where I printed Undercover Cars years ago. It's a really great printer. So
speaking of that, I think I'd like to hear you talk a little bit about how because you've been doing this now for over 10 years. How do you strike a balance between your work as a publisher versus your personal work? The photographs that we saw at the end of your slideshow, the work that you're making up north, because that's you don't want
Clint Woodside as the publisher to be subsumed by, you know, your personal work or the other way around. So it's like you have to.
Too late.
Yeah.
No,
Is it too late?
It kind of is. It's not at all. But it's funny. I've thought about that a lot. Debbie Club started as a vehicle for me to do shit of my own work, and now it's become everybody else's, which is great. And I'm getting the fulfillment that you need of creativity by making all the work for other people. I really love it, but I know that in the back of my head, it's like, if I don't start making stuff, I'm done. Not Deadbeat Club's not done, but like Clint Woodside as a photographer is done. And that's something I have been trying to get more on top of. This upstate New York work is both a joy and a curse because I can't do anything else until it's done in my head. And that's a problem for me. So I got to get it out of the way. I just got to finish that shit. And it has a lot of work to be done still. So I don't know when it's going to be. And I live in Los Angeles. It's so far.
Yeah, you got to come back.
I am trying.
Yeah. Come on, we've got some. Oh,
anybody else?
Yes, please.
Clint, I was wondering if you had or have ever considered doing maybe a collab with other publishers. We started doing that, and it really helps with offsetting costs, and it's kind of nice to collaborate with other minds. Have you done that, or thinking about doing that?
Have we done it? Yeah, we haven't really done it. And there's been I think it's great when people do it, and I'm not against it. It's just, we have a very simple program of how we do our financials and how we have kind of a boilerplate setup. And then when you get other stuff in the mix, it gets a little scary and I don't really know how to deal with it. Like, say I do something with Ice Plant, who are right down the street from me. Like, what does that mean? Like, what is that? What's the point? I would see moments where I could do it with somebody that's in, I don't know, like in Italy or somewhere where they would take the distribution to get stuff around in other countries. But we have, like, this is kind of new in the last couple of years, but we have a warehouse that we use in Europe that does all of our fulfillment. So now we actually have pretty good distribution everywhere we want to go. We could use a little bump in China, in Asia in general. But I don't really, if it made sense, I would do anything if it just makes sense, you know? I think that's one of the good things about Deadbeat Club, and it's just me and my wife, and we're very flexible and fluid about what makes sense. And if it works, it works. Yeah.
Yeah, it does seem like a method that is replicable.
Yeah. Yeah. Please do. You guys don't need me. You can do this on your own.
Yeah, well, that's the punk coming out.
Yeah, that's the thing. Book your own fucking life. Yeah. Yeah.
What's more important business-wise, book fairs or online or something?
Oh, it's all super important. Book fairs are awesome because that's when we get to be more face-to-face with people. And honestly, that's like my recharge and gets me stoked to do everything again. Like, at the end of a book fair, I'm just fucking buzzing. I'm just so stoked. And it's like, I saw all my friends. All these people are like excited about the books we're doing. It all makes sense. And so I just,
you put Roger's book in my hand.
Yeah. I just get super like, yeah, you know, and I probably drink too much coffee. But then, you know, the online stuff is super important because not everybody can come to those fairs. That's really, you know, it's how we get by day to day. If I depended strictly on book fairs, we would be fucked. Yeah.
Hey, I have a question for like people who want to get in front of you. How did Roger's work get in front of you? How did Mode Arsenauts? How did Virginia's? Like, how are you seeing new things that you might not have known of before?
I am going to say, first of all, I don't think I'm a very hard person to find.
not to sound like a weird conceited dude, I think I'm kind of personable and we could talk. I don't give a shit. Like, what do you got? I'm always down to look at stuff. Everything that gets sent to Deadbeat Club, I look at. I'm not able to write back to everybody because it's too much. And if I wrote back to everybody, there would be no books. Rogers is an interesting story. And I'm just, yeah. So it was just like these things that just kept happening. So there's a publisher in England called Palm Books, and they have a thing called the Palm Prize. Roger, you won it, yeah? Okay, so Roger won the Palm Prize 2018, 19?
27. It was right after I finished school.
Okay. So like 2017, Roger wins this Palm Prize. So I see the work and I'm like, it makes sense to me. I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, I totally understand what this is about. This is good stuff. I see a lot of good stuff on the internet. That's cool. Maybe like 5 days later, it shows up on Heavy, which is another Instagram-y website, like kind of thing run by my friend Jack. And it shows up there and I'm like, oh shit, this is that guy again. That's really good stuff. Fuck, it is really good. And then probably like a month later, time goes by and I'm like, Roger's back here in my brain and it shows up on Boom. And finally I'm just like, fuck, forget it. All right, this is something I need to get into. I reached out to Lola, who runs Palm, who's a good friend. And I was just like, tell me more about this dude. And then really quickly after talking to Roger, I'm like, Roger's been in bands. He like understands stuff. Like we get it, you know, like we understand where we're coming from. And that really helps when we have this dialect that we just understand. So it just clicked into place. And what? Oh yeah. And he went to school with Christine Potter, who is also a friend and rad. And when she saw that she didn't know that we were putting it out. And then he sent me the thank you list and Christine was on there. And I just took a photo of the thank you list to Christine. I was like, oh, look who's here. And she was like, oh my God. It was awesome. Like so like, again, this is like this web that just keeps expanding over and over. The universe is ever expanding and so is ours, you know? So yeah, I think that's kind of how it works. Maud, I saw at Chico.
I knew the answer to that.
Yeah. But like, it's just people get in front of me, show me the stuff that's good. Virginia's is Chico. Jake, I've known, you know, Ian started coming to the table and was just like super nice and just a good dude. And I was just like, man, that dude's great. And then he won a weird raffle. What was the raffle?
We did a raffle at the San Francisco Art Fair, and Bookie pulled the ticket.
Oh, yeah.
And he happened to win, and this was before we knew him.
Yeah, we didn't know him, and he won it. And I was like, he's like, yeah, I take photos. I was like, oh, really? And I started looking at his thing. I'm like, and also, this doesn't really mean that much, but he has like tons of followers. I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? And then I looked at his photos. I'm like, oh, dude, this guy's killing it. And so eventually it made sense, you know? Yeah, I don't know.
So last question, what's coming up next for you?
Toshio Shibata is next. Yeah. That's probably not until April. So right now I just reached out to a ton of people. I'm not going to get into that because no one has said yes yet, but we're going to try to make a bunch of zines because April seems like a far time away from now. And I just want to I hate waiting.
That's tomorrow.
I hate sitting still. So I just want to make more shit.
I can see that.
Yeah, I know. I'm a spaz. But we got that, a book by Anne Rierick. She is she's part of the same agency that Vanessa is part of. And Vanessa was like, you need to look at this. Mm-hmm. And there's this beautiful work from the 90s of Appalachia that is just nuts. And then we have a second book that's going to be with her probably a year and a half from that. But I wanted to do this smaller kind of thing it's not a lot of work from Appalachia. So I wanted to make it more of like a poetic thing just because she's from here, but way bigger in Europe, and it's just really weird. So I was like, we need to make something that's like a beautiful little poem that we can introduce you to people, so that I can make this big book and really like have a way that people can understand where this is coming from. So that's coming up. Gabriella Rossi. He's an Italian. He has this amazing body of work where he just went across country. He's an Italian who made an American road trip book, and Richard Rothman sent it to me, and he's like, "Wow, you should see this. This seems like something you'd be excited about." And then Vanessa, like 2 or 3 months later, was like, "Why are you not doing this book?" And then 2 weeks after that, he comes to a thing that we're at and gives me the dummy to look at. And the dummy was like the moment where I was like, oh, fuck, this is so good. Of course. So we have to do a little edit and little dance with that kind of thing, but we're going to make some magic happen with that. We got a bunch of stuff. It's like all this like stuff that like I still have to edit all of it. Nathan Pierce made this zine called Midwest Dirt, which is kind of like what made him a little bit more known in the zine world. And he's been making this body of work forever. And we're going to make like...
He's a great photographer.
Oh, he's such a ripper. He's such a good dude. It's insane. He's a good friend of Tim's. We're going to make like the Midwest Dirt book. And I want to make it for him more to just be like, now you're done with this. What are you going to do next? Because I feel like he's kind of locked in with that. And I was like, dude, let it go. It's beautiful work. So I'm not bummed about that, but we just got to get him moving, you know?
Well, Clint, thank you for flying out from LA for this.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah.
It's awesome to be here. This is where I eat and sleep. This is my church, you know? So
yeah, we're building our own community.
Yeah. That's the point.
Yep.
Yeah. It's awesome.
Thanks, Clint.
Yeah, man. Thank you.